Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the EntreMD podcast. I have an amazing guest for us today. Her name is Dr. Dada. She is a rheumatologist out of Seattle, and we're going to have a really great conversation that's going to take you behind the scenes of the journey of an entrepreneur. And for those of you who are thinking about it, it'll make you go like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. And if you're already in it, but maybe you're aware you're doing cruise control and you should be scaling, that it's time for you to reach for more. This is going to be that thing that pushes you to go ahead and reach for more. So this is going to be a really good episode. So I want you to, lean in, get everything you can get out of it. I'm going to ask Dr. Dada all the questions in the world so I can get all the yumminess out of her. So welcome to the show, Dr. Dada.
Dr. Una, I am so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I just love you. And I think you know that. I just love you. I can't say enough good things about you. Aww. So thank you so much for having me, though.
You're going to make me try to cry like right from the get-go? Well, I love you right back. I love it. All right. So I want you to introduce yourself to the audience so they know who you are.
So my name is Dr. Arinola Dada. And I am double boarded in rheumatology and clinical densitometry. I am also an entrepreneur. I have worked in the Bellevue and Greater Seattle area for the past 18 years. I am the managing partner of my rheumatology practice and director at Eastside TMS and Wellness Center in Seattle. I am the mother of 2 beautiful, amazing, talented girls. I'm a teacher, a mentor, a speaker. And in my past, I was clinical faculty at the University of Washington. I'm also a student at EntreMD Business School. In my rheumatology practice, I help people with autoimmune diseases preserve their immune function so they can live an active life. My rheumatology practice at this time is expanding to create a center for excellence in autoimmune disorders in the Greater Seattle area. And at my TMS and Wellness Center, I help people with depression and chronic fatigue who have had trouble responding to the typical antidepressants get their lives back using TMS, which is transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy. And essentially, it's using electromagnetic fields to stimulate the areas of the brain associated with chronic mood disorders and fatigue.
Wow, that is impressive. That's a lot of stuff that you do. Okay, so guys, you see why I asked her to introduce herself by herself. I couldn't have done that better. All right, so when we met, you were already a successful entrepreneur, right? You had these businesses going and all of that. So tell us about your businesses at the time.
Okay. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. So my story starts in Nigeria. I attended the prestigious University of Lagos, which really formed the core of my resilience. Medical school was a battle for me, but it molded me into the survivor that I am today. I left medical school with an understanding of myself and that I can do hard things. I moved to the United States, started residency at University of Pittsburgh Mercy Hospital with a 6-month-old baby in tow, and subsequently fellowship at University of Washington. I had the best experiences during my time at my fellowship program. It was a very welcoming and nurturing environment, despite the fact that all the attendings were so highly accomplished. In my 2 years in rheumatology fellowship program, I was pushed outside my comfort zone. I had to work with mice. I do not like rodents.
I love the way you said, like, listen, I don't like rodents.
Because somebody else may think, oh, it's not a big deal to work with mice, I don't like it. So my first day in the lab, I had to pick up this mouse. I picked him up. He squelched. I screamed. I threw him in the air, and I headed in one direction. He headed in the other. They had to shut down the lab for 3 hours while everybody was looking for the mouse that Dada threw into the lab. So, but over the next 34 weeks in mouse research, I went from novice to basic science researcher with publications that I presented on a live stage. So again, I was able to reaffirm that I can do hard things. So after fellowship, I was offered several positions, but I selected a small practice that was close to my home so I could pick up the kids and kind of focus on family. Blessed with an amazing boss. I still love him till date, who after 2 years offered me partnership. And I had another blessing, I had another baby. So although I was partner, I really wasn't primarily responsible for the business operations of the practice. My partner managed the core of the practice, and I'll take on small tasks. I'll do a little bit of a HIPAA project here, OSHA project there, employee improvement there, coding classes, giving advice on just how to manage on practice management when required. So I worked about 4 days a week. I was chilling. I would volunteer at the University of Washington about half a day, focus on my amazing kids. I had fun. I loved my patients. I enjoyed the opportunity of teaching medical students and residents and fellows. And life was good. Or so I thought, right? And then my life changed. I was facing multiple crises at work. I had to go through divorce. And then my business partner let me know that, yes, he's going to be retiring by his next birthday. Okay, so get it together, girl. So under pressure from the prospect of helming this practice by myself, I started interviewing a new physician to eventually become my partner. And the truth of the matter is that I was just looking for someone to manage his practice, just take this trouble off my hands. So eventually I found someone, and he was expensive. I was like, okay, well, I can't afford him, but I will. I will work. I'll stop this volunteering at the University of Washington. I'll start working 5 days a week. I'll extend my hours, may even think about weekends. I'll bring the kids to the office, but he turned me down. And so for a year and a half, I was just running this practice alone. I was running it scared. I thought of myself as just a placeholder till some real business person comes along. All the while, I was cross-training my staff. I discovered multiple issues within the practice that I corrected, and then I implemented some drastic changes. So finally, my nights in shiny armor arrived. I got an offer. Someone wanted to buy the practice and have me join this large multi-specialty group. You don't have to worry about running the business. We'll take care of everything. So I asked, well, what's going to happen to my staff? And they told me, oh, yeah, those ones, they'll be let go. I was like, okay, now. So that was the last straw. That was when I stopped looking for an out. I realized that I've been running this practice for over a year by myself. And apparently, I was running it well enough that someone wanted to buy it, right? So I didn't know it at the time, but what was limiting my ability, what was really limiting me was really not my ability, but just this belief I had that I could not successfully run a business, and that I was a physician. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't a business person. And so I finally needed to shift that mindset that I am, and I will continue to be, a successful business owner with employees that are flourishing under my leadership.
Yes, sir. Oh, this is so good. Okay. I just had to let that out. Keep going.
So at that time, I was focused on my 2 kids as a single mom. Having private practice really allowed me a lot of flexibility with my kids' schedule. And that's something I would always be grateful for. So, Dr. Una, by the time I started listening to your podcast, I was running a successful practice. I was cruising. I wasn't focused on growth. I was just thinking like most rheumatologists do. It's not a stressful specialty. Rheumatologists don't burn out. We can work forever. In fact, this is something that is said frequently in the rheumatology community, that we have a long shelf life. We can just keep working.
Wow. Okay, so our first contact was the podcast. How did you find the podcast?
I don't remember. I don't know if I was just, wasting my life on Facebook, and then found something useful.
Wasting my life on Facebook.
That's probably how I found you.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to write that somewhere. Okay. Now you said so many good things. I had to take notes and I'm going to refer to a few of them because I want to make sure nobody missed them, right? You said, I just wanted someone to take the headache of running this place away from me, right? And a lot of times as doctors, when we find ourselves in private practice and things like that, we've been conditioned to say, I'm just going to see the patient. Somebody else is going to take care of all the stuff, right? And then you went on to say, I thought of myself as a placeholder until the real entrepreneur comes. And now you can look back and think like, so how did that make me show up, right? Because you don't throw yourself at growth. You don't throw yourself at making the business work when you're a placeholder. You just stop it from dying, right? It's a completely different paradigm. And I found it so interesting that you would say that. And, you said my belief was limiting me. I'm a physician, not an entrepreneur. And that is huge because doctors either say that a lot or they act that way a lot, right? Like I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a physician. And this is the whole reason why EntreMD exists, because we can thrive as entrepreneurs. We can figure this stuff out. And like you said, we can do hard things. Okay. So no mice for you. All right. Okay.
No. We're done.
No mice for you. So what triggered your desire to scale, right? Because like you said, you're in a specialty where it's like, we have a long shelf life. It's easy. We don't burn out. So I'm just going to, do my 9 to 5 in my private practice till I retire.
Yeah, that was certainly was my mindset then. So I think my circumstances changed. I wish I could just say I woke up one day and snap and then I came to my senses, but no, my circumstances changed. So my kids were more independent. So prior to that, I really spent a lot of my energy focused on getting them academically excellent, right? I'm a mom of 2 girls, and I needed to make sure that they'll be financially independent in life, or at least they'll have the basics to set them up for success, because there certainly wasn't going to be any inheritance, right? So my older daughter got into her dream school, and she's now heading to law school. My younger daughter is very independent. She loves robots. She doesn't want me micromanaging her. In fact, she wants a helicopter mom off her back. And I also met the man of my dreams, and I have this sense of calm. So I decided, okay, it's time to focus your attention, girl, on your own development, because nobody around me was really interested in being the target of my focus. And I think another thing that happened is I went to Nigeria December 2019. I met a number of my friends and colleagues, and these guys are hitting it out of the park. They're running multiple businesses like nothing. So when I got back, I'll tell you, I sat up a little straighter, right? And then finally, your podcast, Dr. Una, your podcast. So by the time I joined EntreMD, I hadn't decided what to do with my rheumatology practice, right? I thought I should do something, but I had a number of things going on then. And one is that I was struggling with growing this second practice, this ITMS and Wellness Center. I formed this with a dear friend of mine, and my contribution was to be the business mastermind. And after a year and a half of struggling, I was beginning to think that maybe this girl had made a mistake. Maybe she needs to find a real business mastermind somewhere. So I also then met colleagues at EntreMD. And I was inspired by people just doing amazing things, from physicians just starting out as running coaches, experts helping women in academics with negotiations and getting their voices heard, to docs like empowering women with skin care and nutrition, to specialists in dry eyes, to urologists empowering minorities in their field. And I was like, okay, girl, what are we doing with this tiny little practice? So this really helped me work on the idea of expanding my practice to better serve my community and becoming financially independent, giving me just more flexibility with my time and increasing the number of goals that I could strive for, and not just narrowing myself to just being this rheumatologist in this 9 to 5. Yes, I love my staff, and that's the end of my story. I felt after coming to EntreMD, I felt there was much more out there, and it really helped me to be able to articulate those things.
Wow. Okay. So by the time you joined the business school, you didn't even necessarily have the plan of scaling.
No, I did not.
You're just like, I need to be here. I need to do more. I'm not sure what more is, but we are doing more. That is so
Exactly.
good. So good. Okay. All right. Now, so you joined the business school in June of 2020, right in the middle of a pandemic. This is why I call entrepreneurs crazy people, right? All right. So how did you change, and what did you start doing differently in your business?
So I changed, Dr. Una, and you probably wouldn't even know this because we didn't talk about this exact thing. But when you dig deep on some of the things that you taught in class, one of them was delegation and examining areas in your life that you can delegate. So, Dr. Una, I got a scribe, and this has dramatically changed my life. After work, I'd be at work, either bringing work home for 3 hours a day and then into the weekend. And then people, my kids and my significant other will ask, so you're working again? And I start getting a little annoyed, right? Of course I'm working.
Of
right?
course, I'm a doctor. This is what we do.
With this scribe, my documentation time has been cut by 70%.
Wow. 70.
70. I trained her for like a month. And then, boom, we started. So it's in the last 1 week. So I'm so excited. But it's in the last 1 week, I was done. My last patient left at 5. And 5:25, I looked at the time. I was like, my notes are done.
I love it. Okay. Now you said something that's liquid gold. So let me just pull that out real quick. You said I trained her for a month. So we're not talking about delegation per se today, but people, listen. A lot of times what frustrates us about delegation is we find a person we delegate, we don't train, and they can't do what we didn't train them to do. And then we're like, why can't they do it? Why can't they read my mind? Why can't they just do what I want? But you did the right thing of onboarding the person properly. And then now you have 70% less work. That is so good. Yes. Okay, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure people didn't miss that.
So, and then my communication skills have improved, even when talking to patients. So in class, we kind of talked about this I help statements, right? And which is, what do you do and how do you make sure that your client understands what it is that you are offering? So this really allowed me to be more in tune with what my patient's pain point is and adjust my delivery of information in a fashion that really resonates with the patient.
Yes.
So it gives the patient the opportunity to buy into the process. And so it improves compliance. So everybody's a win-win, right? And so rather than, what I was used to, which was kind of this top-down approach, I know what's best for you approach, right? So now we're kind of more of a partner. And in the final analysis, I want them to feel like they are part of the process. And I think that communication skill tweaking with that I help statement really helped me to achieve that. And then I started these videos on Facebook, and I'll tell you that it gets better and easier. But you have a framework, and I refer to it each time, and it really just makes it easier rather than just getting on there and really not knowing how you should deliver your statement. So I think the framework makes a big difference. And I'll tell you this fun fact. So I had this patient of mine with osteoporosis, and apparently in her home, she had her Facebook just streaming in the background. And then suddenly she heard my voice and she's like, oh my God, Dr. Dada is here.
Dr. Dada came to my house.
She did. She's like, I better do my exercise and take my calcium supplements, And And so she told me, and I had a great laugh. And she told me, she's like, yeah, and that the video was actually so helpful with all her friends. So I thought, okay, wahaha, I'm everywhere. So, and so with my assistant now, we're also, I didn't mention that, yes. So I have I'm becoming a delegation queen. So I have the scribe and I have a virtual assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So my virtual assistant has started repurposing my videos and she's turning them into blogs for my practices website. So that's a
Wow.
huge difference for us.
Yeah, yeah. Doing a lot more by doing a lot less. That's exactly what
Yes,
you're doing.
I
Yep,
love
I
that.
love it.
And then finally, meeting a tribe of just like-minded and supportive physicians who care about each other and are constantly just celebrating each other's wins. So one of the things that happened to me or for me at Entre MD is that I met another physician who had a TMS clinic. Remember, I had this second clinic I'm struggling with. And so you'd broken us up into these mastermind groups, and this allowed us to kind of get to know each other in the small space. So this doctor had some advice for me in the clinic. So he called me on a Saturday and just walked me through the process. And this has just been a game changer for the clinic. So it has allowed us to cut our overhead by about 70%. So I do have to just give a shout out to Dr. Efosa.
7-0?
7-0.
What?
7-0.
Okay.
It's
I'm giving
huge.
a shout out to Dr. Efosa as well. That is amazing.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I just love the fact that we care about each other, we celebrate, we encourage, and we're inspired by each other.
Wow, that is so good. I'm glad you bring this up because one of the more common objections when we talk about the business school is people are like, well, I need one-on-one, right? Like my case is different. I don't want a group. And I keep telling people, I'm like, you have no idea how good the group is. Like there's the benefit to what I do, but there's an enormous benefit to what you get from the group. Being in a group of physicians who've made the decision, like I'm going to build my business and I'm going to do that in community, right? That is 70%. And it had nothing to do with me. I wasn't part of the conversation. You see what I'm
you
saying?
Were
Like
not.
I was not.
You were not.
I was not. So that is so good.
I will tell you, remember that when we talked about class, I also wanted one. I'm special. I have special problems. Okay.
That's true. I forgot about that.
I wanted one-on-one. I was like, class, my issues are special, unique.
So what do you think now?
I am so glad because honestly, I think we would have still been struggling with that second practice. Definitely without his advice and his mentorship. Yeah, we would not be where. Maybe I'll be here maybe 5 years from now, but not now.
I love it. I love it. That's a power of a group. That's so good. Now, so you've been in the business school for maybe 6 months and 2 weeks. Like, you know what I mean? Like it hasn't been that long. And these are all the changes you've made. Isn't that wild? So
it's crazy.
If you did that in 2020, let's talk wins. So your practice before the business school and where you ended up at the end of 2020. Tell me about that.
Well, 2020 started off just with a blast. I had my New Year's resolutions. They were set. I was giving live talks to the community for this second practice because I was determined that, 2020, it is going to thrive. So I had dates on my calendars for more talks and dinner programs for marketing. And then the pandemic hit. The gym closed. I changed my schedule to start work at 9:30 in the morning. I was sleeping in late. And then, Dr. Una, you may not remember this podcast of yours, but you were like, you are not on vacation.
I remember it.
I was going for my leisurely stroll. I usually am on the Stairmaster at 5 a.m., right? But now the pandemic hits, it's 9:00 in the morning. I'm like, leisurely, me and the 70-year-olds were going for leisurely strolls, right? And you were like, you're not on vacation. Every single point you hit on that podcast it was me. Yeah, like, are you sleeping in? I was like, yes. So I decided that, okay, it's time to get back into action. So the wins I had for 2020 is starting with my staff, right? So my amazing medical assistant passed her nursing exams and we're going to support her to become a nurse practitioner.
Yes.
So I have another MA who also worked her way up and has been taking over a number of responsibilities to become like the real practice manager. And that means less of me working
Yes.
in the practice and working now, having more time to work on the practice. So my rheumatology practice has grown during the pandemic to the point that we're offering some services on Saturdays.
Wow. Okay.
I've also started with this may sound familiar, Dr. Una, big, hairy, big, audacious goal.
Yes.
Of creating a center of excellence for patients with autoimmune diseases. I'm purchasing a new building for the practice and we're doubling the space.
What?
There's a need for excellent care for a growing number of patients with autoimmune diseases. And we have an attached infusion center that will provide a much needed service for the community. I've increased my presence in the public stage as an authority figure on autoimmune diseases by being on podcasts and video creation.
This is so good. So
it's been a good 2020, despite this terrible pandemic, I think, at least professionally.
So, wow. Okay. So, because I don't know if you know this, right? But your growth professionally is like on every side, right? So one is that you have a better team, right? Because you up-leveled your staff. And then two is that your volumes as far as patient encounters increased. Three is that you now have a new vision. So when you came into the business school, it was just, I want more. And then after a while in the business school, you're like, I want to scale. And then now you're like, I want to create a center of excellence. That is growing in vision, like, and dramatic. We're talking 6 months here.
Yeah.
We're talking 6 months. You know what I'm saying?
I remember the day I thought about center. I was in my kitchen and this thing just popped into my head. Now, I've been carrying this same head for quite a while, and this idea never popped into this head.
I've been carrying this same head for quite some while.
And it just popped into my head. And I said, you know what? Yes, we are going to create a center of excellence in rheumatology in the greater Seattle area.
That is so good. That is giving me chills. That is so good. And the beautiful thing about it is this. That's the beauty of taking action, right? So the reason why you're thinking these thoughts is because you took action on some other things and you're like, okay, so I've conquered this, so I'm conquering this. And then it opens a whole new level of possibility. And that's why in the business school, I throw challenge after you guys, because I'm like, if you will do this, you will get results that will, one, make you rewire the way you think. Like, wait a minute, I can do hard things. Yes. I can be great on video. I can, because it took you a while to do your first video, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, because I'm a perfectionist and everything has to be just so.
Yeah, yeah. You know? So here you go, taking those steps, doing that, right? And then now you come to the point where you're like, I'm going to build a center for excellence. So I'm almost going like, oh my gosh, what is she going to think about next? And the beautiful thing about that is it takes your business out of the realm of being only transaction. And I'm not saying transactional like you don't help people, but you understand what I mean. Transactional to where it becomes a mission, right? And the money is a good side effect, but it's a mission. Like, I want to provide this for Seattle. I want to, it's so different. I'm so happy to hear that. Like, so when I talk about helping 80,000 doctors build profitable businesses, it's a mission, and it gives you the drive to do whatever needs to be done to get it done. And you love every minute of it because it's purpose, you know?
Yes,
this is so good.
It does.
So good.
It just changes. It changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you have, you know, in addition to all that, then you delve into real estate, right? Because you're purchasing a bigger property, which is like two different businesses, you know? And you said the way you're positioned. So you're not just this doc who's a rheumatologist seeing patients in the greater Seattle area. You are the doc.
Yes. Yes.
This is so good. So good. All right. So what has all of this then made possible for you? Because for me, I believe in balance, right? Meaning that all aspects of our lives are working together. I don't believe in building businesses at the expense of our families. I don't believe in any of that. I'm like, we should have it all. We may not have it all at the exact same time, but we should have it all. So business is a means to an end. So in your life, what has this made possible for you? All these things that you've accomplished in your business.
I think that the two things. One is one of those things that we discussed during class is to have this framework for your life, right? Which is looking at the big picture of things and thinking what's important to you. So we went through things: legacy, health, professional development, your friends, your family, quality relationships, spirituality, fun, finances, business. I think the other way I like to look at this is a long time ago, or one older mentor told me, probably when I was having a lot of drama in my life, that you want to have many legs to your table of happiness. So I think of this
Ooh,
table
I
with
like
like
it.
14 legs.
Yeah.
And so one of those legs is my legacy, one is my health, one is my kids, one is my significant other, one is my friends, my professional friends, my personal friends, my relationships, my mom. So all those things make my table of happiness. And so I think what this has done for me also is allow me to think beyond just being reactive.
Mm,
And so I started to think about things like legacy,
yeah.
right? And so I'm going to talk about this later when it comes to later on some other ideas that I was thinking about. But I think the other thing is just all this, and I think even the EntreMD Business School has just allowed me to have this mindset change, because now I'm not afraid of success.
Mm-mm-mm.
If I'm successful at something, I don't think, oh, that's enough. Like I'm scared. Like, oh, I start thinking about, well, how can this process be improved? Well, this is good. Hey, we did X and we did it successfully. Well, can we improve it? Is there any way we can tweak it? Can we make it more efficient? So I'm no longer ashamed or afraid of marketing my business. It's something that I rarely did. I would always have to drum up the enthusiasm. I remember one time this orthopedic group in my area, and there were like 12 of them, and they had this open house. And I really had to do a lot of mental work to drum it up, to go there. And when I did, I tell you, I met them one time, this is years ago, and it was just a gift that kept giving. They
Wow.
all will refer their patients to me, and they met me this one time. It was after work. I went to work, I came home, tucked in the kids, went back and had that meeting. And that one meeting was just a gift that kept giving. So I think what I've done now is just do more of that, right? So I created this WhatsApp group called Fabulous Eastside Female Physicians, and we have Zoom meetings. And the idea is to network and post-pandemic to socialize and become a referral base for its members.
What? Wow. That is okay. Was networking something you liked back in the day?
No, I don't like, no,
She's like,
no.
no, don't get it twisted. No.
No,
So,
no.
so you didn't like that because you said is the Fabulous Physicians of
Fem-
Eastside
yes, so Fabulous Eastside Female Physicians Group.
Physicians. Okay, so not only have you embraced networking, you've created a female physician network that you're championing, and which is a win-win because all these other people have an environment to come in, and you have an endless stream of referrals because everybody knows you. This is genius. Okay.
I always said that the boys play golf and the girls are running home, right? Because they have to take care of kids, cook dinner, and all this. But the guys are out there playing golf and networking.
Mm-hmm.
And so as women, we need to find avenues in which work for us.
I love it. I love it. I mean, like someone says the difference a year can make, but with you, I'm like the difference 6 months can make. And yes, and it's not that you weren't successful before. This is embracing possibility, and one of my beliefs is, I think it's Jim Rohn that says it a lot is the goal is not the goal, right? The main goal is what you become because you try to accomplish the goal. So look how different you are. You're an upgraded version of yourself. It's you 2.0.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
because you decide to take on these tasks. Like,
Yes.
look at all these ideas. Look at all the stuff you're doing. It is, I'm
Yes,
like goosebumpy here.
I'm having the time of my life. I
I'm
am just so
happy.
happy.
I
I
am
am so
happy you're
happy.
having the time of your life. I didn't know the half of this. This is so good. And you're just starting. That's the quote unquote scary part, is that this is about to snowball. We haven't even snowballed yet.
Amen to that.
Oh
Amen to
my goodness.
that.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, what would you say to the doctor who's thinking of starting or scaling a business, but they're holding back? Maybe they're afraid and all the what ifs and stuff like that. Or, this is not a great time to grow. Like, I should just be grateful that I'm successful at all. What would you say to someone thinking of starting or scaling?
I think you need to do a little bit of just kind of understanding yourself, right? And so for me, one of the things that work that we did in class that kind of helped me to figure this out was when I identified what I wanted my legacy to be and kind of linked it to my passion. So one of my passions is education, is educating children and empowering women. And I just feel like, the obvious thing is, when you educate children, you change just their whole trajectory.
Yeah.
So an example of this is, so in 2020, I started by sponsoring 2 kids in Nigeria, because I went to Nigeria, I met some families and I kind of made some connections. I hired somebody who helps me scout out kind of families. And so I found a girl. She's beautiful. She's going to need to have some eye surgery. But she's a beautiful girl. And she's 10 years old. And so I was going to sponsor her because her mom was taking her out of school to go become a seamstress. So I sponsored her, but I found out that she has a brother. So I said, well, that doesn't make any sense just sponsoring one of them, right? So I said, okay, well, sponsor 2 of them. And so their mom wrote me a letter. And in that letter, she said, thank you so much. And she went on to say that when the school bus came to pick up my children, the people who had not greeted me or said hi to me for years, thinking that I was a quote unquote useless woman, said hello to me when my kids were picked up by the school bus.
Oh my goodness.
So every time I remember her letter, I just have a little more pep to my step.
Yeah.
Right? I know why I'm doing this. I want to make a positive change in the lives of children.
Yes.
So this year, I'm planning to sponsor another 4 kids. So I think it's important to know why you want to do it. And I think then on days when you don't feel like getting out of bed, on days when you're like, you know what, there's enough money in the bank to retire. Why are we doing this? Why am I doing this? You think about the reason. And I think when that reason resonates with you, then I think you are unstoppable.
Oh
I could give you ideas of things that you can Google, how to scale your business. I think it's really because we're smart. We can do this, right? So it's really just having that inner conviction that this is what I want to do. And then I think nothing's going to stop you.
That is so profound. And it's so true. And everybody's going to have a different why. But the more you connect to that, the more unstoppable and limitless you become. And that is really, really, really so good. I mean, for me personally, I think I have a number of whys. One of the biggest ones is I truly want to die empty. Like, I have no idea who I can become, right? Like, I don't have the full picture, but I know there's so much more to me than what I've experienced. There's so much more I can do. And so it's like the race against myself, like a race against who I can be. And I'm like, I just want to be that person. It's exciting to see what will happen if I just keep saying yes, if I just keep embracing challenge after challenge. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do.
And that's the drive, because I get out of bed. It's not because I don't have money in the bank. It's not because I can't say I have a successful business. It's not because of any of that. It's like, I want to do this. I want to help people. I want to grow in my capacity to help other people. So what you said is so profound, because it's exactly what I do. That is so good.
It is. So I think one of the things I also think about, which, hopefully resonates with somebody's, if we want to scale, then you should actually just do it. Because you don't want to be 90 years old and be like, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda, And so I think it's that same idea of you want to make sure when you go to that grave, there's nothing left.
There's nothing.
Like,
You're just like, I did it all. Here's just the body. You can have it. I'm out. Peace. I love it. I love it. And, I went to Washington, D.C. in September, and we were driving through and looking at all the monuments and all these things. And I'm like, I wonder if they live life on purpose. Like, I wanted to be this person, right? Or if it's something that just happened because they kept saying yes. But I'm like, this is available to everybody. Everybody can live a life worth having a monument to. And it's not because I'm not looking for a monument in Washington, D.C. That's not what I'm looking for. But I'm saying we can live full lives. We can live lives of impact. And I believe that business is one of the best ways to get to do that, right? Because it creates the financial freedom for you to have the time to do it. It creates the money that you need to pull it off, right? Like, cause you're not sending paper to these people to sponsor the kids, right? You're sending real money. You know what I'm saying?
Ideas and wishes are a dime a dozen, right?
Exactly. You have to be able to fund it.
You. Yeah, I would love to help you.
Yeah.
I would love to. Yeah, but I'm sorry, I can't. And they're like, okay, well, cry me a river,
Yeah. So, so you need to be able to fund it, and you need to grow into the person who has the capacity to dream up big things to do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
And that takes growth. And where do you grow nonstop? Is in entrepreneurship. And now the same way your dreaming center of excellence, you keep at this, who knows what you're going to dream, right? I know you're already dreaming it. I'll just,
I know. I already have a plan. I already have a plan.
I know.
I'm waiting for my little rascal to go to college.
And then you start implementing phase 2.
Yes.
I love it.
I'm going to join the Rotary. We're going to make a bigger impact. I heard one of the docs, I haven't spoken to her about it yet, but when we talked about kind of our legacies and what was important to her and to us. And she said, education and empowering women in Africa. And I was like,
and you're like, what?
I was like, we are getting together, girl.
This is and that's it. Entrepreneurs change the world. And this is why I advocate for physicians being entrepreneurs, whether they work for themselves or they're building businesses from the ground up, because most of us went into medicine to help people in our own way to change the world. And this gives you the vehicle to do that, right? Because we were thinking the healthcare system will give us a vehicle or somebody will give us a vehicle. They're not giving us a vehicle. This is the vehicle to do this. I'm so, I love celebrating success and, wins and all of that. This has made my day. Like I'm like someone that drank, 5 cans of Red Bull here. Okay. So what would you say to the doctor who's thinking about starting EntreMD business school and they're thinking, well, I don't know if I have the time. I've tried something like this before and it didn't work. I don't know if a group is for me. I don't even really have a business idea. Like, I don't even really know what I want, or it's expensive. I hope nobody thinks that, but what would you say to that doctor?
Let me hit this is expensive part. So I would say that one of the things we talked about is what would you pay for your pain to go away? And 6 months ago, if anybody asked me what my pain points are, I'm like, life is fine. It's great. Everything's fine. I have no issues. I don't have any pain. Go elsewhere. But I did have a pain. One of the pains that I had was just the amount of time that I was spending documenting. And although I already knew that scribes exist, in fact, I remember going to a rheumatology meeting where I met a rheumatologist who had a scribe, but I didn't take action because I thought, well, my notes have to be a reflection of me and nobody can write it with me. And everything I have to say is so important that, how could anybody even just transcribe that? No. And I always said this, I said, when I write my notes is when I think about the patient. So that was another excuse for me not to change anything, because a lot of thinking is going on when I'm doing my assessment and plan. So there's just no way I could use a scribe, right? So I think that the ability to make that pain go away, I would have paid anything. Dr. Una, if you had said, Arinola, join EntreMD and I'm going to cut your documentation time by 70%, And I'll actually just give you a check and I just write what you want. Honestly, because it's changed my life.
I get a blank check.
Yes, it has just changed my life, right? And so, and Dr. Una, you didn't come in saying, "Hey, Arinola, get a scribe." No, you opened up my mind to thinking about what my issues were and armed me with tools that I could then use to address them, right? Because I already knew scribes existed, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, right, for a doctor thinking about EntreMD, I think an example is that I have this, Facebook, wonderful. So I have this private practice rheumatology group, and there was a post from a member a few weeks ago, and she was contemplating starting private practice. And most of the responses were really kind of pessimistic. Well, if you do it, don't expect to make any money in 6 to 12 months. You're going to need to work as a hospitalist on the side. Don't give up. See if you can continue working for your current boss and maybe start a clinic on Saturdays. That kind of advice. And I started to type. And I started to say, well, you can do this. Get in front of your audience. The biggest problem your business will have is obscurity. Your clients need to know you exist. Don't be the world's best kept secret. Take action. Your clients are there. They're waiting for you. There's a shortage of rheumatologists. Start speaking. What will your revenue generating activity be?
And my goodness. Hashtag EntreMD. What?
Thank you.
Yes.
So I realized that, wait a minute, Arinola. In this one post, there is no way you can convince or really successfully help this person, right? So I deleted my paragraphs of encouragement and I said, join EntreMD Business School, okay? In fact,
one step.
Just do that.
One step.
And in fact, one of my classmates, an allergist, has a waiting list of over 100 people before she even opened the doors.
300. 300. Her practice opened today. 300 on her waiting list. Over 300.
She had about 16 patients on day one.
Yes.
So I'm like, Dr. Una is amazing. Better go and find her. But I couldn't put my accent in there for her to really
I love
just
it.
Ignore all these pessimists because people are telling you all this stuff. There's just not enough hours in the day. I don't have that skill set. That's Dr. Una's space, right? And I said, that is what you should do. Join EntreMD Business School, and you'll be surprised at how my life has changed. I didn't expect it to. I was really just hoping I'll get a few hints about this second practice of mine and keep it moving. But my life has changed.
This is liquid gold. This is so good. So good. Now, I can imagine a doctor going like, wow, that's great. So EntreMD Business School is great for private practice, but I'm a coach or I developed a product or something like that. What would you tell that person? Tell them, go away. Well, this is for the private practice folks.
Actually, the private practice folks make a smaller percentage of the EntreMD Business School. Actually, when I get there, I kind of feel like I'm boring, to be honest, because people are thinking out of the box. Like I said earlier, there's someone who's a physician, who's a running coach. There's someone on there who is doing a direct fee for service. So somebody on there who has like a cosmetic skincare brand.
Yeah.
And there's someone on there who is like a coach. And there's someone else who kind of mentors like academics. That one just blows my mind. She mentors academic women and gives them a voice so that they can negotiate themselves better contracts and just, because the boys get paid more than the girls still.
Yeah.
Right. So actually private practice is a small percentage of the people in EntreMD Business School. So I think if you have other ideas that are not just mainstream medicine, I think you actually probably even get more out of it than people who have kind of just the bread and butter. But I think every single person that joins EntreMD Business School would tell you that they're thriving.
I love it. I love it. And Dr. Dada, you're going to have a really hard time convincing people that you're boring because they can hear you, right? Like if this was a blog, maybe you would get away with it, but no, there's no way. Like you walk in and light up the room. So I'm sorry, boring is not part of it's not your thing. It's not your thing at all. I think this, like, I knew we were going to have a good conversation. I didn't know it was going to be this good. I am so happy for the personal transformation you've experienced. I'm so happy for the wins in your business. And I'm so happy that you're embracing legacy and all that. This is a full package. And thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing the behind the scenes, the good, the bad, the ugly. And you have a lot of good that makes up for any bad or ugly. You know, it really is so good. And, you know, for those of you who are, you know, are doctors and maybe this is the first time you've actually thought of a business, or you have been thinking about one and you haven't started, or you wanted to scale. The EntreMD Business School is a place. There's not a community like it. It is a place where physicians can come and grow together and work hard together and embrace uncomfortable things together, do hard things together and thrive. She's talking about thriving. These things happened in 2020. 2020 has arguably been the worst year in most people's history, right? Like we haven't seen a pandemic before. We haven't had shutdowns before. Like we had none of that, but still. And the mental health part of it, right? Because even though there's all this going on, you have a safe place to come where it's normal to be an entrepreneur. It's normal to dream. It's normal to want big things. It's normal to do these things. And it's a place for you. Right? So you should check it out. You should come join us. If you're a doc who's like, I'm ready. I don't have all the details, but I'm ready and I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to embrace it. I'm ready to do it messy. Then it's the place for you. You should really check it out. It's entremd.com/business. And I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
You know, I think the big thing also is just kind of, you know, you may think, oh, you know, there are going to be a bunch of high powered docs and physicians and how do I fit in there? It is really a safe. There is no silly question.
Nope.
Right? Even people, I remember that I think there is someone in class who is just actually forming that idea of her business. And I just look at her in admiration. And she's like, website up today, spoke to the vendors today. And I'm like, you go, girl, you go. Because I actually had to start something too. Right?
Yeah.
And so she's like, hey, I'm just starting. And we are all so supportive and encouraging. And every time she has a win, I just want to like, hey, good girl, you go, you know? So I think that, you know, it's really just a safe place. So that may be a limiting thought for people. And I think Dr. Una, although she gives us these projects to do, she arms us with the tools, like the framework for the Facebook videos, so that we're successful, because she wants us to be successful.
Yes.
When we thrive, then, you know, it's a happier class.
Yeah. And that's my legacy. You know what I mean? That's, you know, being able to help us, because I understand the handicap of it all. Like here I am, this very smart person. I spent all my time developing these skills. I'm finally a clinician, but it's almost like I had one leg that grew and one didn't. You know what I mean? Because to make this work and for me to practice medicine the way I want, I have to be in charge. I have to have a seat at the table. I have to own the table, right? So to be in a position where I can't negotiate, I can't monetize my dreams and convert them into something, that's a disadvantage, you know? And to realize that it's a set of business skills that we can learn. We learn the Krebs cycle. We can learn this, right? We can learn it.
I hate the Krebs cycle, by the way. But yes.
Yeah, but we learned it because you can't pass go. You can't collect 200 without the Krebs cycle.
You embrace it, right? So exactly.
Yeah. We can do hard. We can do these things. And, you know, and so for me, it's almost like watching something go from X to 10X. It's all, you know, like I'm a physician, all that, but there's just this missing thing. And once you add that, it's boom. Because that's what's going on with you. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It's so good to watch. Okay. Apparently we can go on and on about this, but if people are like, this is so intriguing, I want to find out more about this fabulous Dr. Arinola Dada, where do they find you?
Okay, so we'll start with my clinic website, which is overlakearthritis.com,
Okay.
and then LinkedIn, Dr. Arinola Dada, and then Instagram, Dr.Arinola_Dada.
Awesome. And I'm going to put all these links in the show notes. So if you guys have people in the Seattle area that have any kind of autoimmune, anything, arthritis, the whole 9 yards, there is a center of excellence in the making.
There is a center for
so
excellence.
yeah. So send them to her. Okay. Dr. Arinola, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing all of this. This was really so good. So good.
It's my pleasure. And I'm so happy. And I'm also happy to have this one-on-one time with you too. Yeah.
So in the EntreMD Business School, there is one-on-one time. There you go.
There is, but you'll be asking me what I do last.
Of course. This always happens.
Of course.
This is so good. So everybody listening, I hope you got as much out of this as I did. I mean, I took copious notes here. It was just really so good and so inspiring. And this is just evidence of what is possible. And there's so much possible for us as physicians. I know we've been devalued. I know we were kicked out of the table. I know that, we're not trained as entrepreneurs. I can understand that feeling like I'm just a clinician. I want someone else to take the headache of this away. But this is to show you that you can do this. You can. And my hope is that you embrace all of this and that you go check out the business school and come join us. We will be excited to have you. I mean, you get classmates like Dr. Arinola, if for nothing else. Okay. So
come join us for sure.
All righty. So I will see you guys on the very next episode of the EntreMD podcast. If you loved this, I want you to go share it with another doctor. Okay. Pay it forward. Don't let it stop with you. I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, if you love listening to the EntreMD podcast, I want to invite you to join EntreMD On Demand. It is my signature subscription program that gives you access to a library of business courses designed to help you do one thing as a physician entrepreneur, and that is to thrive. Just head out to entremd.com/on demand, and I'd love to have you join us. See you on the inside.